Welcome everyone to Pink Room. I'm bringing on my co-hostesses Shonda and Theresa. So good to have everyone in this space. Pink Room continues to be unscripted, reflective, real, and affirming of women. And today we have such an interesting topic, but it's also a very heavy topic: colonization's roots and the aftermath, and decolonizing our minds. So, because we have such a heavy topic, we want to begin today with some grounding. And we have our co hostess, Shonda, will lead us through the grounding exercises wherever you are. We ask you that you might stop and join us as we do this together.
So let us begin. I'm going to ask that everyone close their eyes, including my co-host, so that you're not distracted by any stimuli that's in the space you're occupying. Just relax yourself, drop your shoulders. Imagine your feet being planted firmly in the ground like the roots of a tree. And just like that tree, when the ground is watered or it rains, the tree absorbs all of the healthy elements. Now, imagine your body receiving all of the healthy elements it needs, and you begin to grow and stretch just like that tree. And as the warm sun rays bring so much joy and life to that tree, imagine the warm sun rays massaging every tired and stressed muscle, nerve, vein, cell, from the crown of your head to the sole of your feet. Now, as you take a deep breath, you're breathing in the word positive and exhaling out the word negative. Another deep breath, saying healthy in, and exhale, saying unhealthy out. Last deep breath in, you inhale love, and you exhale fear. Now rub the palms of your hands together gently 7 times. Open your hands, open your eyes, look at your hands for 3 seconds, and come back to join us.
Thanks for that, Shonda. I felt that. Theresa, you felt it too?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.
That was
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we invite everyone to make sure that you don't skip over the grounding, but that you do it too. Such a sense of relief. We have a heavy topic today, as we said, colonization. But we wanted to get the opinions of women, and we're going to start today with the opinion of one of our friends, Sharon. She's answering the question: was colonization a good or a bad thing? And this is her written statement. Sharon says colonization was a bad thing. With colonization came diseases, death, and forced religion. Over the years, the indigenous people have been wiped out and relocated to specific places. Now, indigenous people don't have the same rights and opportunities as the colonizers. We still see this now in 2023. Wow. Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing that, for being actually the inaugural commenter on Word on the Street. We appreciate it so much. Much love and peace to you. So let's get right into it. Shonda and Theresa, first question is, what is colonization? It's a word that has been thrown around a lot. And sometimes I wonder if people really understand the weight of that word. What is colonization? So from your vantage point, even if you come up with a word or a term, how would you define colonization?
In essence, I see that colonization is stepping into somebody's area of, that they exist in and pushing them out. Taking what is not yours. At the essence, theft. Just outright taking what's not yours. It's unfortunate that maybe today we don't see it. I mean, it's no longer called colonization, but we continue to see this people's property, of people's culture, of everything that it's stolen from uh, you know from a group of humans that have established themselves in a particular place, and then have somebody else come and just push them out.
I like to play on words. And when I think of the word colonization, if you can just follow me with this descriptive word, think of your stomach, your colon. It's supposed to occupy healthy things, or it's an environment, it's a space for putting in proper and healthy nutrition so that when whatever goes out, it's supposed to be healthy for your body. And so it's a compacted space, or it's a space that exists and it's there. And colonization is just as Teresa said, it's just like we put too much sugar or too much salt and too much oils in there. It disrupts the flow of what is. And so colonization is what's already there, right? Where people, indigenous people, have already occupied a space and a land. Just like there's so much earth and we can all find a space to reside. But these particular places are robbed of their resources, usually the space that they have, and it just creates this domino effect of pushing out sometimes unhealthy things. So colonization it's when you take over, when you rob what's already there, what's healthy, of its natural, whatever's been there.
It's interesting. Yesterday I was watching a video, and oftentimes we think of colonization as a hostile takeover, right? It was violent, and it was. In many ways, it was a hostile takeover. There was pillaging, there was plundering, there was rape. All of this occurred. But in this video, this gentleman shared that from the journals of Christopher Columbus, where he wrote about coming to one of the islands in Latin America and saying that when they unfurled their Spanish flag, there was little or no resistance as they unfurled their flag. And to them, that was a sign of, okay, we're good to do this. To me, it was a sign rather of, these people, they know that you are coming to take over.
Yeah.
They thought that you were guests, that you were visiting, and your flag meant nothing to them. Meant to you, but it didn't mean anything to them. So when I think about colonization, I want to say that it's the longest and most devastating mental disease. Because not only it's because Teresa and Shonda talked about the physical parts of it, but I think it's one of the longest and most devastating mental disease that humanity has ever suffered. When we think about colonization, I don't know, Shonda, Teresa, do you have anything else you would like to add to these great ideas that you guys were sharing here about colonization?
It's unfortunate that we're still seeing it to this day. I think that the most, I'm just straight out, in our face example is Russia and Ukraine, and how they just want to take it over. They just like, this is, this, and they're already, I think it was something I read, just, not in depth, but I believe, and I might be wrong, but that some of the sections of Ukraine already being colonized by some Russians.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a, whatever means needed, whatever means possible, they're going to take over something that's not theirs. And I think that's at the essence of our human issues, right? Taking what's not ours. And this is something that we struggle with from a micro to a macro scale. And
right.
That's why you're saying, this has to do with, some mental issues, right? It comes down to that side of us as humans that we don't particularly like to show off, right? That's the core of it.
Right. And I think that in the case of Russia, and even now what we're seeing happening in Gaza and so many other places, there's always a justification, right? The colonizer or the oppressor or whoever, the attacker, whoever that might be, will always find a justification for doing this. Because it's also a way, going back to your idea, Theresa, of cleansing ourselves of what we know is wrong.
Exactly.
Right? We know it's wrong.
Mhm.
But if I can justify it by, well, history or this document or even the Bible says that, if I can justify myself by that, then in some way we feel that it is excusable, and that it's
And you
right
know what,
to do it.
Norca, that's the thing, and when we begin to look for those justifications, we have to dehumanize.
It's
We
bomb.
have to dehumanize. We
Bomb.
have to
That's
dehumanize
it.
because if not, then our conscience will be not. It
Exactly.
will not allow us to go there. So what do? You dehumanize. What did they do to Native Americans here in the United? Well, here
Yes.
All over
in
the
the
world.
new world, right? Absolutely all over the world. And taking this particular example, what did they do to them? Right? They were savages.
Mm-hmm.
That was the word. They
Right.
were
Yeah.
savages.
Right.
And they're not human.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they were human, then you are a sinful person because you're not supposed to kill because you believe that God has ordered you.
Exactly.
And if you can justify your actions, then every life is hunky-dory.
Right. And we saw that even in the Holocaust
Mhm.
with the Jews, right? They were
Absolutely.
dehumanized. They were called animal names. We have to remove them. We have to relocate them, put them in these places, kill them out, dehumanizing them, as you said, because then it shuts my conscience down. Because if they're human
Yes.
like me, how could I, as a human, kill them?
Exactly.
That's right.
Right.
That's
I'm
right.
Shonda, you wanted to say something.
I was just going to say part of what Teresa was saying, hey, here in America with the indigenous, that here there's part stories, right? Where people came to America because they were tired of the oppression that was taking place abroad, right? But you come right into a space that does not belong to you and you do exactly what happened to you. So you had to dehumanize. And again, you just lacked respect for yourself as an individual to see that you're occupying someone else's space and that it's just altogether wrong. You're snatching something. You're taking away what people know. You didn't want that to happen. And it's just a cycle, and we see it happening all over, even locally in communities. They call it gentrification. It's really colonization. It's pushing out
Right.
and squeezing in. It's about capitalism. It's about money. It's so many elements. It's about an Africa, natural resources. Panama, we were talking about Panama, the robbing and stealing of things. It's colonization from an economic, a social, political, religious, from all areas. You're just doing something that definitely has a psychological impact across the world.
So let me go before we jump to our second part with this. Let me ask this question, and yes, we've all talked about it, and I think Shonda, you brought it home with is the cycle, right? It seems that we're on this treadmill that we continue to repeat the sins of our fathers and our ancestors. So my question is, do you see an end to this, or what can we do as humans to try to bring some sanity to this mental disease? Do we see an end?
Wow.
I think I have hope in the younger generations. Here's why. I see the younger generations being more aware and more vocal. And a lot of it has to do with social media. In the past, we were fed information by large media conglomerates, and whatever they told us, we received it as, okay, that's it. Today, I don't even have to watch any of the big channels. I can go to my social media and find an influencer who is vested in the issues happening in certain parts of the world and see the reality on the ground with live videos, which I'll never see on CNN. I'll never see on MSNBC and none of those channels, but I'll see it from this social media influencer, right? Or this activist. And I think that young people have stopped believing a lot of the planned media sound bites that are put out there, because of course we know sometimes media is in cahoots with whoever their sponsors are, and they have done the deep diving, and even if they haven't done the deep diving, they look at other places to get the information. And I think that is what is fueling a lot of what we see happening all over the world, with students who are for Israeli, students who are for Palestinians, students who are talking about Ukraine, what's happening in a small country like Panama. It's that these young people are informing themselves and they're not taking the sound bites that we had to take. And they're saying, it's not going to happen on my watch. I think this is where the cycle ends. I don't know what your thoughts are. Am I being too optimistic about this?
You know, I do think you're a little optimistic about it. I wish I could join you in that optimism. But the reality is that just as there are many young people, many young minds, being critical, we have many young minds that are going the other way. I just am horrified at the fact that we have this resurgence and I do see resurgence because even though we have always lived with racism in this country, always, it has never gone away. Right. There was this golden age where after the civil rights movement, where at least you knew that if you acted out your racism, you could be racist all you wanted, but if you acted out on it, you would have consequences.
That's right.
And I think that golden age is over, and now, that was the United States that everybody wanted to come to, right? Because they saw hope. And unfortunately, because of the political rhetoric that we've had since, 2015, when when the presidential campaigns began, we understand that we are living in that this is the resurgence of open racism that you can, and because of that, I want to say, because all of these isms are at the same, they all come from the same place. Right. Look, stealing comes from a place of fear. Yes. I'm scared that I'm not going to have enough for myself, so I'm going to go take yours.
Yes.
Racism comes from a place of fear. I'm scared of you because you're not exactly like me, and I'm going to protect myself from you. So all of these manifestations of our humanity are all rooted in our fear of other human beings. Yeah. And scarcity and all this other stuff, right? I remember the book Night. The title is Night by Eli. And thinking of how he describes how little by little, without them, really being too scared of what was happening, but eventually, from actually living in their homes, peacefully, then having soldiers being quartered in their homes, and then then being moved out all the way to the ghettos and ultimately to the concentration camps. This was this process, and I want to tell you, Norca, that my vision of the U.S. is that we will eventually get there. I know it's very dark. It's a very dark vision. But I've thought about I probably need to go find a different country to live in. I've thought that thought has crossed my mind, for me to survive. Me and my family and I. And then I think how much of that is a colonizer's mentality. So anyway, there's a lot of layers to that. Huh?
Yeah, I said that's the game plan to
That's
get you to think that way. You said something a moment ago, Teresa, where you talked about the book Night and how it started, where the military began to go into the homes and enforce them out. That's the exact same things that were taking place in Gaza. Like that war of
yeah.
2014, they would go into the homes of the
Mhm.
Palestinians and occupy, and the same things here. It's done. Like both of you, is it fair? I guess I'll be on the fence. I feel there's a
Okay,
level of
there you go.
optimism because technology, and you can get things instantaneously, right? And you can get much more information, and people are much more transparent about the information that's out there, having access to tools that can pull historical documents, facts together. The other part of me says that the same way that, and then we're talking about the war in Gaza because the wars and stuff that's taking place in the Congo and different parts of Africa and other parts of the world, we don't have the knowledge of what's happening, right? But in terms of, let's say, with Gaza, how their communications and electronics and stuff were cut off.
Mm.
So that level of, they probably wanted to put more out there, but couldn't because of that. So how do we stop? I mean, is there hope that colonization would end? I can say that there is, but I can also see the counter. But the good thing is that there are going to be people out there who are always going to stand up for what's fair, true, just, and right, and put their best foot forward. And then that evil and that fear is going to always persist. And so we're going to have those two opposing forces. Who wins in the end? We will not only, I mean, only in the end of time will it be revealed. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, thank you. We've been dabbling into this already, the impacts of colonization today. I would like us to go into a little bit more in depth with that. And I think that what Teresa says does resonate with me, right? Because I'm also thinking that the people that are in power are not necessarily as open minded and as accepting and as willing to put away their old fears, right? They're not. So, and while they continue in power, we'll continue to see what we see, right? So, what are the signs? What are the impacts that we have today when we talk about colonization? You mentioned Sudan, you mentioned the Congo. What is happening there is scary, right? But it comes from our own need, because remember, there are mining companies there that are looking for this particular, I can't remember the mineral, because we all need that for our cell phones, right? And for also
lithium.
and for
Lithium.
for cell phones, and for the new, we want the electric cars, right? So one I can't remember, influencer said that it's going to actually be, we're going to see more and more of this, right? We're going to see more and more of these mining companies trying to colonize, nations, to try to pull this because of our own demand for having the latest iPhone, the one with the most this, the one with the most capacity. And when you think about it that way, it's a non-ending cycle then, right? Because we're saying no against it, but yet still we want the latest iPhone. And the latest iPhone might mean that a little 8-year-old has to go into these mining caves, get cancer, or a pregnant mother, because that's the only way she can get 20 cents to be able to buy a bowl of rice. Like, we are ravaging each other based on this, again, this idea that I want what you have, that I need it, let me get it, indiscriminate of what that means for you. I'm gonna get it.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's what we're doing. I mean, and then we go, I mean, we can keep going, because I mean, we just, our clothes.
Yeah.
We don't even have to, go into the technology. I mean, just even more basic stuff, right? I mean, look, that's what we do with our farm workers here in the US. These living standards that they have are just, not even at poverty level. I mean, they're like sub-poverty. We look for that, the cheapest option, and normally the cheapest option is the one that has cost the most damage to other people. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a There's so
Oh,
many
yeah.
layers on
Yeah.
that.
Think
Yeah.
about it, Teresa and Shonda. That's how it all began because there was
Mm-hmm.
silk,
Mm-hmm.
right? There was what was the purple thing that they had in Africa. There were spices in India. That's how it
Mm-hmm.
started because
Gold in Africa.
gold in Africa. Well, they have all these things that we see the value in them. We need to go get them. And then there were, of course, the human beings that we would bring and enslave to then make us live. Imagine they do all the work, we pay them nothing, we barely feed them, and we live like little kings and queens, even though we claim that we were running away from that system. But then we established that system in many ways.
Yeah.
It's really a crazy cycle. And the good thing about it, I think, is that when you delve into history and you understand these circular movements, right? You have but no other choice than not to do what many of our contemporaries in the Christian world do, like, oh well, Jesus is coming, let's just pray and forget about it. It gives you actually an appreciation for where you are, for the knowledge that you have acquired, but more so to me, it gives me an appreciation for humanity and how careful we must be when we deal with other humans,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And other humans who are not in the same lane, if that's a good term. You have people who are in different parts of the world, and a couch to us is a luxury. To them, it's they don't have that, right?
Yeah.
And so definitely how we're treating people from all walks of life. And I think if we develop amongst ourselves and in our own communities this idea that when you take something that doesn't belong to you, when you take for granted what you do have and expect other people to be okay with it, you're just also a part of the cycle.
That's right.
you
That's
you
right.
become a part of the cycle of this whole colonization mentality, capitalism, to capture and take and to claim it and to thrive from it, right? That's what that is. And when we see, oh, you don't have this, you're not in our lane, and so we have a right to mistreat you. Or when you do have what we have, but if your skin is not the right color, then we can still treat you a certain way. And this is a cycle that we just pass around, that this is what you do, but that's evil, that's fear. And here it causes this desire for other people in the world to dehumanize and continue to colonize in all walks, communities, properties, businesses. It's a deadly cycle.
Yeah, it's a deadly
That's
cycle.
right.